Hi, welcome to Texas Law with Mig Howe, your source for Red Pill Truth. Today we're going to do a topic on, banks. Oftentimes we think of money as a tangible currency to pay for goods and services, what have nots. So we have a fractional reserve banking that's around the world. It's money printed out of thin air, and humans are used as collaterals every time a baby is born. So that baby's got to be registered with the financial agency to have a number to pay taxes. That's how money is rotated, going floating, so to speak. So we're going to go ahead and cover this topic. And today's topic, we're going to do one on banks. So the banks are actually crooked and corrupt to the core. Well, they say they have changed their philosophy on taking care of customer and taking care of customer service. And this one particular bank I'm going to do a topic on is Wells Fargo. They had scandals, so I'm fixing to do a timeline on it. So I just did a little test. So I'm fixing to go ahead and I just did a little test on this and see if it's going to pop up. Now, um, we had a consumer loan violation that just released about an hour ago via ABC. And, excuse me, wow. I'm seeing more. I see more restrictions coming Wells Fargo's way. So I'm fixing to go ahead and do a topic on it. So I don't know how many people are banking with Wells Fargo, or and maybe Wells Fargo bought out their loan contract from another bank, and Wells Fargo bought that bank out and then took over that loan contract. So, anyways, we're going to go ahead and cover this topic today. So I'm going to take this off and I'm going to put this up here. The year was 2016. All right, I'm going to go ahead and blow this up, and I'm going to blow this up. I'm going to blow this up. All right, and I'm going to move this over. Okay. It started in September 2016. Regulators said employees create several. All right, right here. Regulators said employees create several million unauthorized bank and credit card accounts without client knowledge. That's news report dating back to 2011 in the Wall Street Journal and 2013 in Los Angeles Times have suggested. So this started way back in 2011. Allegedly, one of the CEOs of this bank said 8 makes it great. And guess who? Guess who this right here is? Bank hit with $1,885 million fine. It says it's firing 5,300 employees. These are the bottom hourly workers we're talking about, the ones that are expendable. The Delta employees, like the Delta males and Delta females, they're the one that got fired, but they protected the management, the whistleblowers. In October of 2016, California, the state of California, started probing into possible identity fraud. It gets even worse. It gets worse. The DOJ launches an investigation or a probe into the business practice. Millions have taken out that millions of angry customers went and did a withdrawal of all their money out of the account, went to open up into other places like other banks and credit unions. But like I said, banks are crooked as a snake in the grass. Most people went to credit unions. Credit unions, they do everything by the book, and they're pretty much transparent and for the members. See, the bank is out there for profit. They want to make a profit off everybody. John Stump steps down with Tim Sloan taking over as CEO and Stephen Sanger serving as a non-executive chairman. So, how many of you actually seen a Senate hearing where John Stump, or whatever his name is, comes in with his hand wrapped? How did his hand get injured, and how did he get his hand wrapped? And there was also a female in this. They did not list in here. She got to pay out. Chairman and CEO John Stump forfeits pay. Okay. The bank accused of illegally repossessing over 400 cars without a court order agrees to pay $24 million to settle charges. Where did that money go? Where did that $24 million go? Did it go to the victims, or did it go to the state? When everybody started taking their money out, going elsewhere, they made a promise to end aggressive sales goals. And then, remember when I said that he had injured his hand and he had his hand wrapped right here? He appears before Congress. They wanted answers. He had answers, so did Sloan had answers. Security Exchange Commission probed tied to as many as 2 million fake accounts disclosed. 2 million fake accounts. This here started in 2016. Oh yeah, it snowballed. It snowballed and gotten bigger and bigger. The bank was so cunning and merging with other banks and buying up banks and merging and growing, too big to fail. They started this little scandal. The scandal got out of control. 2 million fake accounts were in November 2016, the same month that Donald Trump won the election in 2016. And whistleblowers try to go and warn others on fake accounts. Wells Fargo tried to shut people up. Wells Fargo said there were signs it retaliated against workers who tried to blow the whistle on fake accounts. This was in 2017. In February of that year, 4 senior bank employees are fired. Oh, get this. In March of that 2017, federal agency accuses Wells Fargo of egregious discriminatory and illegal practices. It gets worse. The federal banking regulator downgrades Wells Fargo's community lending rating. Wells Fargo was growing in size when the bank grows to a huge size and corruption creeps in. And okay, their lending rating. They took a hit on that lending rating. Once they took a hit on that lending rating, it's going to become harder to, and all that. Class action suit settlement rises to $442 million. That's small chump change. Wells Fargo is worth over billions of dollars in assets. They've grown that big by buying up small banks. Then clawback pay for former executive begins that year in April of 2017. Now, I said this happened in 2011. It went back all the way to early 2000 to 2004. Clawback pay from former executive begins. The bank settles class action suit with preliminary deal of $110 million from wrong clients. $110 million is not going to fix their credit rating. Report from the independent director showed that bank prepared an internal audit report in 2004 about practices that may have encouraged employees to create fake accounts. Oh, yes. In that same year, Wells Fargo is accused of modifying mortgages without authorization from clients. And check this out, July of 2017, it charged at least 570,000 clients with car insurance they did not need, and some 20,000 may have defaulted on car loans for related reasons. They jacked up the rates, make it so unaffordable so nobody can make payments sometime. See? You see, that's exactly what happened. Wells Fargo said it found as many as 1.4 more fake accounts, bringing the total number up to 3.5 million. I said it was 2 million fake accounts. Now it went up to 3.5 million in August. Oh, get this. The bank is sued for allegedly overcharging small business for credit card transactions via a 63-page contract. In October of that year, Wells Fargo said wrongly fined some 110,000 mortgage clients. Regulators said that Wells Fargo sold investment it did not understand. Hmm. Oh, regulators asked a bank to pay 30.4 million to brokerage clients who were sold volatility linked exchange traded product from July 2010 to May 2012 without understanding the risk and features. Oh, check this out. In November of that year, now the bank made an admission to illegally repossess another 450 service members' cars, agreed to pay an extra $5.4 million in promised refunds. And then 2018 came along. So the bank set aside $3.25 billion reserve to cover litigation tied to fake accounts, mortgage issues, and other matters. And oh yes, did you know that the bank Wells Fargo owns the Federal Reserve? So the Federal Reserve owner decided to punish itself by saying the Federal Reserve said bank cannot grow assets until it improved its governance and controls. You see? So many people have their 401ks involved in Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo says regulator asked it in late 2017 to review wealth and investment management unit for inappropriate referrals or recommendations involving 401k plan rollovers with some alternative investments and the brokerage clients being referred to the bank's investment and fiduciary service business. Wells Fargo has agreed to a $1 billion penalty tied to mortgage and auto loan issues. Oh, and also, it agreed to overhaul its board. Oh, check this out. And details emerging right here on regulators' examination of clients being pushed to obtain in-house funds for retirement accounts. And bank reaches $480 million class action settlement over fake accounts. News breaks that the bank may merge some segments of the wealth unit. So, anyways, the wealth unit to refund clients $114 million due to incorrectly charges for certain assets and accounts. Excuse me. Man, this timeline is interesting. The bank paid refunds of over $505 million to foreign exchange car loans mortgage clients. News breaks that Wells Fargo is working on refunds of tens of millions of dollars over add-on products such as pet insurance and legal services. Right here. In August, the bank agrees to pay 2.1 billion penalty to Department of Justice in probe of toxic sales of mortgage-backed securities. mortgage-backed securities. You know what that is? They take that to the stock market and make money off of the they sell those loans on the stock market as bets. That's how money is created out of thin air. Details emerge on how aggressive sales goals may have led to problems for the wealth unit clients. Oh, get this. Get this. DOJ investigate banks' purchase of low-income housing tax credits, possible underbidding, and unnecessary foreclosure up to 400 homes. The bank makes money off of foreclosing on homes. Did you know that? They foreclose on your home and kick you out of your own house and sell it to somebody else. They make the money. They make their money back plus more. Remember, the home appreciates. Did you know that? So let's take a good look here. Wealth Unit reviews gender bias complaints. Okay, investment bank fires some staff as part of a probe into expense policy violations. Oh, it gets worse than that. When they got to pay out money, they're going to have to cut their workforce and close branches. Regulators look into alleged improper use of client data and fraud at Wells Fargo wholesale banking unit. That was in September of 2017. The bank says it will eliminate 26,500 jobs over the next 3 years. It's hitting their bottom line right there. It gets worse. October 2017, number of advisors dropped to 14,074. This represents a decline of 1,012 since the fall of 2016 when the bank scandal drew nationwide attention. Oh, the bank agrees to pay the New York Attorney General $65 million to settle issues tied to cross-selling and a lack of disclosure of these practices to investors and clients. Okay, Chief Administrative Officer and Chief Auditor placed on leave after Office of Comptroller of Currency reported sent them letters about their oversight failures. Told you these banks are crooked, man. They are crooked. Okay, Wells Fargo agreed to pay $570 million to 50 states and the District of Columbia for problematic sales practice, mortgage rate, lock fees, add-on products on car loans from 2002 to 2017. Get worse. All right. Online and mobile banking services go down due to power shutdown and other difficulties in 2019. I'm gonna go ahead and hop over. This is getting interesting. I'm gonna go ahead and click. Okay. December 20 in 2022. This was released today. All right. Wells Fargo to pay out 3.7 billion over consumer loan violations. They are in deep water. Wells Fargo is in deep trouble. And consumer banking giant Wells Fargo is being ordered to pay 3.7 billion in fines and refunds to consumers by the U.S. government regulators, the largest fine to date against the bank. Okay, Washington right here. Consumer banking giant Wells Fargo ordered to pay 3.7 billion in fines and refunds to customers by U.S. government regulators, the largest fine to date against the bank, which spent years trying to rehabilitate itself after a series of scandals tied to its sales practice. The amount is nearly quadrupled to the previous $1 billion penalty that Wells Fargo paid in 2018 and to cover widespread consumer violations of law. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau on Tuesday ordered Wells to repay $2 billion to consumers, enact a $1.7 billion penalty against the bank. Bureau spelled out a laundry list of consumer financial law violations, from illegal fees and interest on auto loans and mortgages, as well as incorrectly applied overdraft fees against savings and checking accounts. The Bureau said that bad behavior by the bank impacted more than 16 million customers. Wells Fargo has been repeatedly sanctioned by the U.S. regulators for violations of consumer protection law going back to 2016, when Wells employees were found to have opened millions of accounts illegally in order to meet the unrealistic sales goals. Since then, Wells has spent its time saying it's cleaning up its act, only be repeatedly fined for additional violation of consumer protection law. All right, the bank remains under a Federal Reserve order forbidding it from growing any large until the feds deem that its corporate cultural problems are resolved. That order, originally enacted in 2018, was expected to last a year or two. All right. Now, this off of former Wells Fargo executives ordered to pay $18.5 million over fake account scandals. The attorneys for the three ex-Wells Fargo bankers said they plan to fight the decision. What do they have to hide? What do they have to hide? Really? Three former Wells executives face hefty fines over mega banks' fake accounts scandals after a judge recommended they be forced to pay $18.5 million in collective penalties for failing to stop the year-long scheme. I'm glad I'm doing a story on this. Federal Administrative Law Judge Christopher McNeil found the report issued this week that former Wells Community Bank Group Risk Officer Claudia Anderson, former Chief Auditor David Julian, and former Executive Auditor Paul McLinkle were all culpable in their conduct constitute unsafe and unsound practice to violate the fiduciary duties owed to the bank. He ordered to pay civil penalties of $10 million, $7 million, and another $1.5 million , respectively. Hmm. McNeil made the recommendation to the Office of Controller of Currency, which makes the final determination according to American Banker, which reported the proposed penalties for attorneys. For the former executive claims their clients did nothing wrong to plan to appeal the ruling. So if they find out if they're found to do wrong, own it. In the action of the latest move by regulators to impose penalties on individual former Wells Fargo employees on alleged involvement or failure to end a scheme that grew rampant within the organization and an unrealistic sales goal implemented by bank led to millions of fake accounts being opened without consumer knowledge and under false pretenses. Okay. Not only that, in 2020 they agreed to pay $3 billion to resolve an issue with the federal government, an amended part of the settlement that Iran had collected millions of dollars in fees and interest or harmed credit rating of some consumers and illegally used customers' private information. Wow. And take a look at this. You see this here in that picture? He's got his hand wrapped up in something black here. And get this. Prior to bank settlements, 454, okay. Let me see. I don't know why that there. Okay. 5. Let me stop it. Okay. 5. Let me see. Misconduct. Okay. Okay. Now, prior to bank's 5 former Wells Fargo that were charged in connection with the misconduct, and another former bank CEO, John Stump, was barred from the banking industry. You see, John Stump was involved on that deal. 8 makes it great. That was his slogan to the bank. 8 makes it great. So a customer opens up a checking account, puts money in that checking account, and secretly, overdraw this, overdraw that, overdraw, and then collecting fees after fees after fees after fees after fees. That's how the bank makes their profit. They make profit off of fees. Okay? The officials also issued a $17.5 million civil penalty against Stump, the largest fine ever assessed by the bank regulators. But Wells Fargo hath not been immune to the scandal since current Charles Scharf took over in 2019. They even spent billions of dollars in ads to run on TVs to tell everybody they're trying to make it right. They're trying to win back the customers. But the damage was far too done. The damage was done. Oftentimes I would go and make a comment that greed kills hope at every levels in the management, in the upper management, in the business, also in the corporate world. It kills hopes. It kills prosperity. It kills dreams. All right. Um, so June, a New York Times reported a former Wells Fargo bank employee claimed the company was holding sham interviews of minority candidates for jobs that were already filled under the guise of promoting diversity. Sharfton put the bank's diverse slate hiring policy on hold to make changes before restoring it. They even discriminated against minorities. Now, also, summer of U.S. Senate Banking Committee Chair Sherrod Brown, Democratic Ohio, wrote Scharf a letter who told a chief executive to fix Wells Fargo's governance and risk management issues, pointing to a $7 million penalty that SEC imposed on the bank for violations of anti-money laundering rules and a stringent $255 million fine it paid in 2021 for failing to address the problem in its mortgage division. Today's December the 20th of 2022. This here was released December the 10th. A lot of people were closing out their checking accounts, closing out their accounts, going elsewhere. The bank couldn't help it but just give the money back to the consumer. They were losing customers. Over the past few years, it seems like Wells Fargo has come under investigation for no small number of regulatory infractions or discrimination practices. Hmm. So, you know what? This right here, I'm going to read this to you. Just under a month ago, Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, launched an investigation into the bank's automobile lending, consumer deposit accounts, and mortgage lending practices. The ongoing investigation could cost the bank more than $1 billion in settlement fees. All right, it could result in the CFPB levying restrictions against the bank. Wells Fargo is reportedly in negotiations with the agency now. They had a fake account scandals. Now a report has been filed saying that they're doing a fake job interviews with minorities to bolster diversity requirements. Oh, yes. Here you go. Earlier this year, the New York Times published a report allegedly that Wells Fargo was hosting fake job interviews to bolster its diversity requirement. The report claims that Wells Fargo would continue to interview non-white and female applicants after positions that were already filled. Did you remember in one of my articles that I was reading here that I shared with you on this video? They slashed jobs. So if their workforce is already filled, why would they want to do this? And the bank was accused of discriminating against black job applicants, agreed to pay $8 million in back wages. Whoa. 7 years earlier, in 2013, Wells Fargo paid $110.5 million settlement in response to allegations it offered higher rates mortgage fees to black and Hispanic candidates. Now, a new ruling on major Wells Fargo scandal could see some former executives of the major bank hit with some substantial consequences. Former Wells Fargo face hefty consequences. Okay. I read that part. Now I'm going to skip all that. Okay. The OCC acting chief, Michael Hsu, have 90 days to make a final decision. Future of Wells Fargo's banking practice. In the past, Wells Fargo paid millions of dollars to settle various disputes involving its banking practices. But the dollars lost have little or no effect on the mega bank's overhead profit, causing some government officials are worried that the bank will continue unfavorable practice if its consequences are steep enough. The bank is making profits hand over foot, and that money is just thrown out. It's like pennies being thrown out of a savings bank. Okay? CFPB Director Chopra has spoken at last about the need for more impactful penalties. While several U.S. senators have spoken out about the bank's hiring and other practices, it's hard to imagine that Wells Fargo taking a hit large enough to impact its business. But there could be an example made out of a major company. Consequences for high-ranking officials would be a more tangible way to enforce penalties, and as could the revoking of necessary operating licenses. So I'm going to go ahead and so this conduct I've already covered. It was 2016. Then it went to 2017. This is, okay. This is a timeline. Here's a timeline. It started in 2016. And look at this. It retaliated against whistleblowers. The bank's crooked. All right? The bank is so crooked on their money. And anybody who has accounts with Wells Fargo, make sure you keep your eyes on your money, on your receipts. Invest in a scanner. Get your receipt, get your paper trail, invest in that. All right. I'm glad you got a chance to listen to this video. And when in doubt, open an account with a credit union. You'll get better service. You'll get better customer service. You get better deals. And you'll be treated better. If you go to too big to fail bank, you probably will be disappointed. All right, until next time, take care of yourself And furthermore, take care of your money. It's all you got. And remember, it's all you got. Peace.